Hello there. What's going on, everybody? We are only hours away from the official launch of Star Wars Squadrons, and it made me really want to do an Armada video inspired by Star Wars Squadrons a little bit. So I'm going to be talking about 5 Rebel Squadron pilots that you're going to see in Star Wars Armada that would make really cool alternate versions, like commanders, for example, to turn around and show up in a second format in Star Wars Armada. If you guys are new here to the channel, I invite you to subscribe. I'm running a $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment and enter to win that. More details on Crabbok.com as far as all of my giveaways. I also have an ARC Trooper giveaway that's also running all month long, and so that is also going on. There's all kinds of details for those things. If you go to Crabbok.com, you're going to find a giveaways link. It's going to give you the rules for all of that stuff because that one's more social media based. Also, if you're interested in supporting the channel, there's also links in the description below for things like Patreon, also for Discord, social media, Twitter, Facebook. If you're interested in any merch, if your dice have ever rolled all blanks and you want to put them on carbonite, we've got things like the Bad Dice Prison. This is a little bag you can lock your dice away until they decide to behave again. You can bring them in warm or you can bring them in cold. We got masks, we've got shirts, we've got all kinds of really cool stuff. As a matter of fact, this is one of the newest ones that we just got in is right here. As a matter of fact, I'll showcase this one to you. This is the Imperial mask. Depending on your loyalties, I know this is probably a Rebel video, so I probably should have worn Rebels today, but you know what? I gotta play everything, right? Because that's what I gotta do. But yeah, or even this Chimera shirt, too. Like, all kinds of cool stuff. You can find all that stuff down in the there should be links and pictures of some of that stuff, but there's a Teespring link down there. That's another great way to help support the channel. Okay, enough admin stuff. Let's just go ahead and talk about this particular video. So, there's been a lot of talk about Armada with the Clone Wars that's coming out, and of course I'm excited about that, but it also makes me think, they've got to eventually do more Rebel and Imperial stuff too. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm going to be kind of putting into my Armada content in the future is, hey, we aren't forgetting about Rebels and Empire as well. So here are 5 Rebel Squadron heroes that I think should come back in an alternate format as a commander. Starting off with Hera. Hera Syndulla, she is absolutely important. She is also going to be in Star Wars Squadrons, and she's one of the reasons that inspired this video. Also, the fact that you flying in a group of 5, and so like there's like a whole bunch of little synergies that all kind of come together to kind of inspire this list. But Hera she's a squadron. She's a single, a singly represented in Star Wars Armada as this awesome pilot for the Ghost. But she's so much more than that. She's also a general. She becomes a general in Star Wars Rebels, but she's also a very prominent general in Alphabet Squadron. And Alphabet Squadron itself, that series of books, is also tying in directly to Star Wars Squadrons. She has actually her own flagship, the Lodestar, which is it's an acclimator. So maybe we'll see that show up as well. Like, it would actually make a really good pack for her to show up as a commander in. But she's a very well-versed commander. She's trained other pilots. She could definitely be a type of commander for the Rebels that reinforces squadron tactics. So that would be something that would be really nice to do. She could certainly borrow the flavor of her own individual card here, in that she maybe either gives Rogue directly or just maybe makes squadron commands more powerful, or maybe she doesn't. You don't need to do squadron commands at all. Maybe her squadrons just operate a little bit more independently, either directly with Rogue or something kind of similar. Maybe she boosts rogues that already exist, or maybe she really doesn't do anything for rogues, kind of like how the Empire has a little bit of that going on. It'd make a kind of a good counter or a good asymmetry there. So Hera, I think, is an obvious choice of somebody that really needs to also show up as a commander. And one of the cool things about when they do these, because Darth Vader is one of those, like the iconic example for the Empire of somebody who exists in multiple formats, but since you can only have one, it's like, do I want Darth Vader in his TIE Advanced, flying in a fighter, because then I can't have him as my commander, or then I can't have him as a boarding party, or then I can't have him as an officer. So you have to pick only one example, and so I think the Rebels need to get hot on this. Hera is a great example. Up next, Han Solo. Look. We got Han Solo in the YT-1300. We've got him in the Millennium Falcon, right? This is Han in Episode 4. He's doing his own thing. He's a scoundrel. He's a gambler. He's a smuggler. He's just running from Jabba. Him and Chewie, the boys for life. But Han becomes a general in Episode 6, right? In Return of the Jedi, Han is a general, leading a strike team. I mean, if he's a general, he could certainly lead forces, lead troops in Star Wars Armada. Not every leader, not every commander in Star Wars Armada has to be a naval Admiral Akbar style commander. I mean, Mon Mothma's there, and she's not really a ship person. You know, you've got other generals there too. General Raikin, who, you know, he was leading a base. He's General Madine, who's awesome. But like, you know, you've got generals and admirals, right? So he's a general. He's up for grabs, absolutely. And he certainly knows. You know, he can do his roguish thing. But I feel like as a commander, he would do it his own way, and it would probably be kind of one of those people that really boosts his ship. But I think he would do it in a different way. I think he would do the whole, no, shoot at me. I think he would taunt your opponent. I think he would say, if your opponent, like some kind of global effect, if your opponent fires at any ship other than his ship, then they get a detriment, like they have to remove a die from attacking. Now, granted, his ship would have to be eligible. It would have to be in range. They would like, if they could target him and they didn't, that's when the negative thing would apply. So I feel like he could boost everybody that way, or force people to either put themselves out of range, which could be really, really fun strategically. It's like, well, I'm going to put him right in the middle, so you're going to have to spread out if you don't want to, you know, if you want to, like, you put him on a Starhawk or something like that, and then be like, come shoot me now, ha ha ha, you know. But at the same time, maybe it could be a little bit of a double-edged sword, because maybe if they do shoot him, they get a bonus die, you know. And so, you know, like, it really, like, this is just rough ideas, because that might be a little bit overpowered or something like that. But like, I would love for him to have some kind of, you know, like, leave them alone, come at me, you know, like kind of him rushing in and realizing, oh boy, I got in over my head right here. You know, like, because he was set up that kind of distraction or something like that. I could see him leading that way. That would be a fun way to have Han Solo as a commander. Next up, speaking of Han Solo, Lando Calrissian. Look, they both exist in the Millennium Falcon. So, and they're both good pilots. I really like Lando in the Millennium Falcon, though. And so that's all. And since you can't have both Lando and Han in the Millennium Falcon in the game, you can't have two Millennium Falcons. You have to choose one. Now, Lando also does exist as an officer. He does something very different as an officer, and Lando's fantastic there. So having Lando as a commander, you could make him really, really strong. You could make him really great. Whatever his maneuver was at the Battle of Teneb, right? You, like, have him do that again. He's also a general. He's also leading the charge on the second Death Star, leading it directly. I mean, he kind of tag teams that battle with Akbar, but that was a big battle too. So he totally fits the bill for for a commander in Star Wars Armada. But like, this version of Lando you get here is like basically him flying in the Millennium Falcon, but maybe not really leading the battle, because he's not actually your commander here. So I would love to see him as a commander, because that would be such a great opportunity cost. Regardless of whatever his commander costs, you'd have to not run Lando as an officer, and that's a big thing, because Lando's a great officer in Star Wars Armada. You'd also have to not run Lando in the Millennium Falcon, which also might say, hey, you know what? Now I have more reason to run Han in the Millennium Falcon. And so that could be really cool. Now, I don't have a whole lot of ideas on what Lando's ability might do. It might have something slightly up to chance, but I feel like that's just a little bit too much of a shtick for Lando to have. Like Lando Officer is kind of that random type of, like, oh no, reroll everything, you know, because he's a gambler and you're gambling, but, you know, like, you're almost cheating because you're only gambling when the time is right. But I feel like Lando as a commander would be a little bit more serious. It could be slightly up to chance, but I feel like it would be a little bit less risky. Like maybe one reroll, like maybe every time your ships are attacked, you can target one die, then your attacker must reroll that one. Then it's not as random. You're actually you're going for the double, forcing that, or something along those lines. So it's like a lot more mitigated, a lot more structured luck. and I feel like that would probably be a good way for Lando to have like that character growth. He's still a card player, but he's taking on some more responsibility right now. And of course, I love Lando. Anyway, I named one of my kids Lando, so we gotta have more Lando in every game. And by the way, if you guys play Legion, why in the heck don't we have Lando in Legion yet? Come on. Anyway, let's move on. Wedge. Wedge. That's right. That's all I'm going to say. Wedge, and Wedge. So, all right, absolutely. Look, Wedge is a pretty good pilot. He hasn't. I mean, he's a great pilot in the canon, but in the game, in the squadron, in Armada, there's nothing wrong with him. He's effective, but he's not somebody that I always take. Right? He doesn't shine that brightly for me. I do see him get used, and he feels like he's at a comfortable a comfortable level of power. But Wedge, like if Hera was gonna be somebody that boosts your squadrons and like maybe lets them activate with a little bit more freedom, Wedge would be that guy who's like, no. When they activate, they're getting extra dice. Like they're super firepower. Maybe only when they shoot other squadrons. Like maybe every squadron gets an extra blue die anytime they're activating shooting squadrons. Maybe something like that. Maybe they get 2. Maybe he's an exhaustible. Maybe he's a one round per game type of guy. It's like everybody gets 3 extra dice when attacking squadrons, but only this round, and that's the only thing he does. Maybe that's crazy overpowered, right? So like, especially if I'm running a whole bunch of Z95s, you kind of have to balance all of that stuff. But I can see him as somebody who's giving squadrons extra dice. I think that would be a really good thing to do at air superiority. Then again, they could go a different route with him. He's going to mentor one person in Aftermath. He teaches Snap Wexley, and so then they grow up to there's a whole lot of story there that goes on with Snap and Nora Wexley, and all of this, and so as Wedge goes on to basically become a father figure to Snap, kind of his stepfather, but Snap teaches. And maybe he takes one other pilot under his wing. Maybe he gives a scatter to one squadron or something like that, right? So like this way, he's leading your forces, and maybe that's not the right way to go with him. Maybe that's something better for an officer, Wedge, an expensive officer. Maybe we don't want to start handing out scatters because that could be incredibly crazy. But I like the idea of like a Wedge that's a mentor, that's teaching other pilots. Whether you do something like where in the most recent Wave 8, we got those. We got a single ship upgrade type of commander, and so like, wouldn't it be interesting if there was a single squadron upgrade type of commander? And I feel like that doesn't really synergize well with a fleet commander, like only caring about one starfighter and neglecting the whole rest of the fleet. So that might not be the right play, but something like that, thinking outside of the box with different ways to support squadrons without just being a carbon copy of other pilots that are out there, could be really fun. And I mean, an easy way to do it would be extra dice, but you could also look at rerolls. Although I feel like rerolls are more of a swarmy thing, more of a TIE fighter or an Imperial thing. I think extra dice is more of a rebel thing, like more of a spray and pray, like. Okay, you may get rerolls, so you're more likely to get at least like 2 damage, but I'm gonna roll 7 blue dice against you, and I'm hoping that they're not all crits, right? Like, so that's kind of the idea there. And 7 is probably a little bit too much, but that's kind of where I'm going with this. And last but not least, Luke Skywalker himself. Look, Luke is a big deal, right? But the version we have of him is just his episode 4 version. His like, hey, I'm going to shoot the Death Star. I just got off the farm, and he becomes a big deal after this. On Hoth, he was a commander. He was leading a battle. He was leading snow speeders. He had the attack pattern Delta, where they were all behind him, so there was much less of a target. So they were all kind of hiding in the shadow of the other ships behind them. Well, that was a pretty cool thing. That was a cool maneuver. That's Luke's thing, man. Come on, let's have him do something like that. Like maybe as a commander, he runs attack pattern Delta and does something hey, if a shot is obstructed, you remove 2 dice or something. Like maybe he does something extra with obstructed shots. If you can man it like the opposite, you know. I don't want to steal too much from any other commanders that are out there. So that's just one option, and it really depends on what stage of Luke's career you want to go with. If you're going with Commander Luke Skywalker and in his Hoth gear, he could probably even have his pilot gear on, as he wore that in a lot of Empire Strikes Back. You know, that's a cool option, like leading from the front, and that would be his thing. But maybe you go Jedi Luke. Maybe he's doing, because hey, if this comes out in the future, we're going to have Jedi commanders in the Clone Wars. Maybe there will be some type of battlefield meditation. Maybe Luke can do something like that, because a lot of Luke's immediate future post Return of the Jedi and his involvement with the Rebellion / New Republic has not been, you know, fully written in the new canon yet. So there's a lot of different directions they could go if they wanted to go with like a black suit Jedi Luke as a commander for the Rebellion / New Republic. I think that could be cool too. There's a lot of things they haven't really discussed. I would love to see him be using the Force to help the fleet as well. And honestly, you don't really have to just do one. You could do 2 different versions. You could do, you know, Jedi Trainee Episode 5 Luke Skywalker, Commander Luke in his Hoth gear, and maybe he's cheaper. And maybe you do Jedi Luke farther down the road as a more expensive one. I would love to see multiple options for commanders. They might have to put some kind of subtext underneath them, though, like Luke Skywalker and then in parentheses, you know, Commander or something like that. If they want to do multiple commanders that are like of the same type, X-Wing is doing that now. They have the subtitles and stuff like that. And I have no problem with that. I think that's actually a pretty cool way to do things. But it would be fun. Yeah, and that's my list. So let me know what your lists are, because I'm sure a lot of you guys would love to see lots of different characters show up. But I wanted to stick this to the theme, a group of 5, just like Star Wars Squadrons. And, you know, thank you guys for hanging out with me. We are getting closer and closer to more Armada content coming out, and as that happens and as we get news, I will be bringing it to you. And also, as Star Wars Squadrons comes out very, very, very soon, I will be bringing you content with that as well. So that's all I've got for today. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, big thanks to my patrons. You guys are wonderful. I could not do this without you, so thank you for your continued support. And lastly, I will say what I always say, as always, have a great day.